Well, hello. Looks like we have a nice group of folks here. It's good to see everyone. Is everyone having a good day? I hope so. So I wanted to give some updates to everybody today, and hopefully everybody hears me. It's good to see you, Kimber Kiss. I liked your Kimber Kiss. I liked your video, your makeup video. It was very nice. I'm going to have you on the show with me sometime. Hi, Catherine. Good to see you. Lou. Sarah, sorry, I can't see that. Sarah Spitby 11. Chris Cooper, Crystal Keith, Love Matters. Good to see you as always. Lolo. Jeffrey. What is that? Macam. That's a tongue twister. Patty. Is that Kayla? Good to see you, Kayla. German, Chris Cooper, Dan Crosby, Thomas, Jackie, Lori, Carolyn, Dr. Mike. Good to see you, Dr. Mike. Me, not you. Little Evan, always good to see you. It's wonderful to see everybody today. I hope you're having a great day. It looks like we've got a decent group here, right? Decent group of everybody. Let me just check here 1 second. Get myself all squared away. Make sure I have everything set up. So, wanted to give you an update. Obviously, I think if you see the title here, upcoming with Rex Bear from Leak Project, myself and Jeff Doherty, that's going to be on Jeff's channel. It's for you guys on the East Coast. I think it's probably going to be a little bit too late. Good to see you, Patty Kitchens. Max, good to see you as well. John Dickerson. And of course, Tracy and her beautiful butterflies always. Ronnie Tomasetto Jr., Minnie Ice, Jean Adair, Wendy B. So, Kathleen Rue, good to see you. So the show for tonight with Rex Bear and with Jeff Doherty will be on Jeff Doherty's channel tonight at 9 p.m. Pacific time. 9 p.m. Pacific time. A late show. It still should be quite interesting. The good part is that Rex and I probably could talk forever because we have a general understanding in many of the same areas. Rex has a wonderful background and knowledge in multiple areas, from the Anunnaki to the celestial bodies to the Illuminati, to you name it. Rex is all over the place and has a tremendous amount of input and insight into all of them. He's a very fun guy to watch. I'm sure many of you watch Rex's channel, and seems like a terrific guy. I've never met him. I've never spoken to him. So you'll be witnessing our introduction. And also tomorrow at 2 p.m. my time, I will be on with Steve at WSO with Steve Olson. And good to see you, Hopi NG. Now, Steve and I are going to get into a lot of different subjects. Steve and I like talking, that what we like to do when Steve and I get together is, because our conversations are very interesting. When Steve and I get talking, they're very interesting because we really throw hypotheses to each other, things, visions that we've had. We can be as verbose as we want. So where I might not necessarily have a conversation with you about some of those things, I'll have those with Steve, because I'm just saying, hey, this vision, what does this mean to you? And so we bounce these off of each other before, so we have some kind of general understanding of where this fits in with ancient texts and some of the things that we know. So what we try to do is, good to see you, Laura. Yes, Leak Project is Rex's channel. Good to see you, Sherry Sunshine. Wendy B. Relentless Maverick. Mav, good to see you, Bobby. Thank you, Kimber Kiss. Appreciate that. So what Steve and I want to try to do with our conversations is allow you to kind of peer into those conversations and have them. And that's going to lead me to conversations about this Hopi trip. And I'm using Hopi trip, although we won't always be on Hopi land. We'll be on Navajo land and Hopi land. But there is a girl, good to see you, Carl Webster, Michael King. There is a lot to find in that whole area. The San Francisco Peaks, Monument Valley, all of those are Navajo areas. And what we want to do, and what's amazing is that we both, when Steve and I were talking today, we both had the same vision about how this is coming together. And it's the reason why I haven't been so solid in telling you what it would be, is because I'm still kind of grasping what it's supposed to look like. Because as always, I don't want to ever it be my idea. I want it to be the Father's idea. I want it to manifest the way it's intended to manifest. So I kind of wait around for the answers. I'm not in a rush. I'm not in a rush or in a hurry to get to these things. So the way that this trip is panning out is that obviously Malia would be coming with me. Sandra would be coming with Jeff. I don't know whether Steve would have his wife coming or not, but I'm assuming that he would. So, but this takes on a whole new character when you begin to look at that. And then with the amount of emails that I've received from people that feel that they're supposed to be on this trip, and also that want to contribute by bringing stuff and being a part of it and helping out in any way they can, it's turning out that this may be a larger production than you might have thought. I always envisioned it being quite amazing. That it would, rather than just being a couple days, is that for those involved in it, for Steve and myself and Malia, it would probably be 2 weeks of an investment of time, 2 to 3 weeks even. And the amount of video that would be produced out of it would probably be 2 or 3 weeks of daily videos, of launch videos, as we assemble them and edit them. Apologize for the flies. We have in Arizona, we have a plague of flies. The whole state is plagued. It's crazy. So as I've gotten all these messages from people that feel that they need to be there, and some people want to be, they want to be involved in it. So I'll leave this to you, and you can have some comments in the comment section, in the chat section, about what you feel about this. But I'm thinking that we would actually create a base camp in Monument Valley that is accessible by car, most likely truck. So, dirt roads, there's a lot of dirt roads out here that would be accessible. So anybody that wanted to come could be. So it would be somewhat of a gathering of such that we would have everybody come out and we would establish a base camp. So imagine a multitude of tents in a specific area, and that the people, everybody coming, would bring a contribution. So somebody would bring a water tank for water. Somebody else would bring a generator. Maybe a few people bring a generator. Other people bring, maybe somebody says, hey, my brother-in-law has porta potties. Bring some porta potties. So we end up making a base camp for this production with a central campfire area, so that as the teams that we would separate into specific monuments and into specific caves, that we would go explore that, and then we would convene at night and discuss what we saw and found during the course of that day amongst everybody at the campfire. And we would videotape all of this. So not only would we have body cams, but at the base camp, we would have some cameras, and other people would be given cameras to talk to people, have testimony. So we would have everything from cosmological observations. Steve has talked about doing a high altitude balloon with video at that time, going up upwards of 90,000 feet and getting some video. Also, getting on my drone, I have the ability to remove the camera and attach it's quite an expensive camera, so finding one to rent, because I think they're about $5,000 to buy. So I'm not going to be expending that money on that. But a rental of a camera, which is a thermal imaging camera, which gives us a variance of negative 300 degrees Celsius and upwards of 400 degrees Fahrenheit positive. So this would allow us to see every variation of temperature differentiation in the rocks, within the caves, in the drone, from high altitudes, whatever we needed. And it would also give us the ability to also spot what other what life there would be, animals, what have you, or whatever else we might find in those mountains at that time. Now, there are many different festivals during the period of time that we're talking about. So this would most likely be somewhere around the end of October, middle to the end of November timeframe. And not to be overly organized, but to definitely have people. And the way that I saw it is I saw 80 tents in the desert. So if somebody were going to bring a tent for themselves, they bring another one for somebody else. They're fairly cheap at Costco and Walmart, $45, $50, or what have you. But where everybody contributes to this, and that we and that out of it we receive so much learning, even from the testimonies around the campfire, even from separate conversations that take place while the teams are in the mountains or in the caves, and that from the group that was at the base camp, that we would choose a few people from the group to come with this team and a few people from this group to go with that team. And it would be truly an event that I think would be a beautiful adventure, and with an unbelievable amount of learning, that when you leave things to the creator of all things and you just say, show me, miraculous things happen. And I have a overwhelming feeling that this trip is intended to happen, and that we will be seeing and discovering something remarkable. So with that said, I wanted to make sure that I brought that before all of you, and that if there is interest in that, to certainly send me an email, and whether you would want to be involved, because the one thing that I would want to make sure is that we do go through, look, we have, it's unfortunate that we have to do this, but I want to make sure that we go through the people, that we don't have individuals from the attack crews that are out there trying to make this a disruptive event. And so just want to make sure that we have conversations with anybody that would attend, that there would be a one-on-one conversation with anybody that intended to be there. And we would give a central location, and how you get there is how you get there. So with that said, that's the update on that, and the email that you would send to me if you think that you could bring something, contribute something, whatever, that you would be coming. And obviously we would, all of you, anybody that would be coming would be obviously on video, would be part of the group, and truly a wonderful fellowship time, I believe. I truly think that this is going to be something that will most likely turn out to be something that we do more than once. So with that said, I mentioned that I'm going to be on Jeff's show tomorrow, 2 p.m. tomorrow, my time, Pacific time, which right now we're on Pacific time. And we're going to get into some discussions. Now, what I wanted to also bring up to everyone on this video is, you've heard me begin to start talking about Paul in Scripture. And I'm happy to take questions about that. But what I wanted to do right now is to give you a little bit of insight into how I discovered the discrepancies within Paul, and how I discovered why Paul, and discussing Paul, is such a difficult thing for us, and why so many. I'll tell you, so many people loved the Matrix video disclosing Paul with the Christ Jesus Christ, but I can tell you, it's also one of those things that I watch 100 subscribers go away instantaneously, and that's fine. That doesn't bother me. But it's because people have such a difficult time accepting the fact that there is something wrong there. But I want to tell you and show you what I mean. First of all, as I began to discover these things myself, what took place is, at the time, I truly needed the spiritual truths that he has. And you cannot establish in anyone anything. You can't get people to accept something in a negative form without also offering a carrot. You have to have a carrot and a stick approach. And somebody's texting me like crazy. So, Maverick, leave me alone. You're distracting me. I'm joking. That was an old text. It was actually my mom. My mom's telling me that there's spaghetti tonight. She's made spaghetti. And my mom makes amazing spaghetti. Hold on. As I needed the spiritual truths that Paul had, as I said, that many of the spiritual truths that Paul speaks of was also available. When you read the Nag Hammadi text from some of the other apostles, you realize that the spiritual truths are also mimicked in there. So Paul obviously had access to this as he was persecuting and killing Christians, and essentially all but sending them to the to be eaten by lions with the Romans. That Paul had these spiritual truths, and so when you need them, you're reading them, and it's kind of like, it's so sweet and so beautiful that when you do get to the hard things to comprehend, you gloss over them because you only want the sugar. You don't want to have to taint the sugar because you found something that's really difficult to swallow. And that's how the carrot works when you also need to give somebody the stick. So when Paul would refer to himself as meeting with those so-called super apostles, he's denigrating and diminishing the apostles of Christ himself, intentionally to elevate himself. He lowered them at all costs. He said that he went and spent time with them in Jerusalem, and they added nothing to him. They were nothing. So his arrogance is very prevalent, but also, so as I started to get these truths, I had to accept the fact that I needed to rightly divide the word of truth, just as Paul says. So Paul speaks of rightly dividing the word of truth. And in that statement, it became startling to me that I recognized that Paul may have known that he was taken over by the enemy. And so that there is so much of the enemy in him, but he still has the core of the man in him, which wants to battle against it. And that's why the name itself even means, the name of Israel means he who wrestles with God. Well, he who wrestles with God is one who wrestles with these two different components. Good to see you, Anonymous Christian Branch. Being late, that's all right. Better late than never. So good to see you, Stealth Drunk Tech, Wendy B. So with that said, when I got into that and I heard rightly dividing the word of truth, it told me that Paul was divide these words of truth, that he might have imagined that if he was being guarded by the enemy, so to speak, and that he would kill them, and that he had to do these things, and that he was being forced to do these things, even from within him, that he was taken over, or maybe even threatened, or maybe that he couldn't give up his appetite for something else, but he was proving that he was a broken man, which he admits many times. But at the same time that he admits that he's a broken man, he's also arrogant and bashes other people for being broken. So he's all over the place. He really, truly is. But it tells me that he is being honest. So why I'm saying this to you is because through this process, you go through these different emotions when you receive these truths. And these emotions take you on a roller coaster ride that is quite terrifying in some cases. And many of you, I'm sure Tracy will explain to you, she's experienced this roller coaster. John has experienced this roller coaster from Best Damn Podcast. That roller coaster ride is necessary. That is a refinement. And that during that refinement, you begin to recognize that the spirit of anger and being angry at him isn't productive either. And that is precisely how the enemy leads you back into his way of thinking. And that if your spirit of anger rises up and then you're defending your previous beliefs, well, then the only way to make these truths go away is to attack the person that gave you the truths, which is why I expect attacks on a daily basis. I fully expect them, because when people come into these truths, if they want to undo the truth that that resonates so deeply within them, if they want to undo it, the only way they can undo it, they can't unhear it. They have to destroy in their mind and try to taint the one that told them, so they can kill the box, the delivery. That's why kill the messenger. Kill the messenger and you'll forget all about the messages. So I have learned that through everyone, even the people that are perpetrating the evil activities, that they are the same as you. And this is where judgment comes from, where we're not supposed to judge at all. And you can't, even though you think you're self-righteous, but no, you cannot judge at all. So I found myself finding an incredible amount of compassion for Paul as being captive by the enemy. And so as I was talking to somebody earlier today and I was explaining, I said that to a degree that by us exposing the activities of this, I mean, let's just keep in mind, folks, that Paul says he's an apostle of Christ Jesus, not an apostle of Jesus Christ. Let's also remember that he would be making himself the 13th apostle. Well, Jesus was the 13th of the 12. So he is telling you that he's taking his place and reversing his name. He is the inverse of him. And at one point, he's even speaking about it, and he says, we're doing these things in the face of Jesus, right in his face. And he speaks of a lot of things. So I've found myself finding an unbelievable amount of compassion for him, and even compassion for the enemy, the fallen themselves, captivated by whatever has altered them, whatever changed them. Because if I can have compassion for the enemy, then I can have compassion for anybody. So that was important. Sorry, let me get a drink of water here. So with that said, you're also going to find in Paul's teaching, so when you read and you continue to read 2 Corinthians, you'll read about how Paul, I'll give you an example here. So this is 2 Corinthians 3. So he says, who hath made us able ministers of the New Testament, not of the letter, but of the Spirit. For the letter killeth. Now, he says, for the letter killeth. Keep in mind, every single thing that Paul ever wrote was a letter to somebody. So, yeah, the letter does killeth. But the Spirit giveth life. But if the manifestation of death, written and engraved in stones, was glorious, so that the children of Israel could not steadfastly behold the face of Moses because of the glory of his countenance, which glory was to be done away with, he shall not, the ministration of the Spirit, be more glorious. So he goes into here and he says that Moses had to put a veil over his face to hide what was perishing, that he was ugly and dying, because he was bringing the law of who? The law of the enemy into the earth. Now, he's absolutely pointing out that Moses was working with the enemy and that the curse was the law. So he was telling you that the law of man was the law of enemy. But more importantly, and this is why I tell you that Paul, working on behalf of the Romans and the Roman Empire, which we are still essentially under today, that understand that the MO, the motive of that empire and the motive of the enemy and the motive of the Luciferians, the motive and literally the motto of the Masons is order from chaos, and that their entire plan and structure, everything is about building up the chaos where they build it. They build the chaos. They're the owners of the chaos, and then they come in and they create order out of that chaos, which is an illusion. You have seen time and time again where Hitler was built up and destroyed. He was built and bought and paid for and funded by the same people that destroyed him. Same thing, creating a disease because you have the vaccine ready to go. It gives you an order of importance. You see how important we are. We're the ones that solve these nasty problems. Trust us. Follow us. Be a part of our regime. Be a part of our beast system. The same thing was taking place with Paul. That the order of Moses was giving way to the order of the Roman Empire. The order of the Moses was with the Pharisees, and the Pharisees were already giving way to the Roman Empire. They were terrified of the Roman Empire. They said, we must stop Jesus because if we don't, the Romans will come and take away our place and our nation. They were terrified. It was a perfect time. Paul began working on behalf of the Romans. Paul built the church on behalf of the Romans, which we still have the church of the Romans today, based on all of the teachings of Paul. If you go into a church today, if they do teach the words of Jesus, they will supplant those teachings of the words of Jesus with the interpretations and the teachings of Paul. They can't teach the words of Jesus on their own, because if they do, they will fall into the truth. So they have to maintain Paul's lies, because that's the order of the church. You cannot get away from Paul. If the entire foundation of the Roman Catholic Church was based on the teachings of Paul, the entire thing, and their interpretations and their insertion of the different texts and the different pagan gods that they established in it, from December 25th as being the sun's birthday, which it's the sun in the sky, right? The sun's birthday is December 21st to the 25th, where it goes from summer solstice into or from winter solstice into summer solstice. Easter also being Ishtar. So all of the different pagan institutions being inserted. If the Roman Catholic Church was established, any variation of that church coming from it, I don't care what name you give it, Protestant, oh, we've rebelled against that. If you rebelled against it, but you still honor the same text that they founded the church on, you're going to have an issue. This is where Red Letter Disciples comes in. That if you truly want to know the truths, the true truth of what was being said, the massive disruptor that Christ was, there wasn't anything that he felt was sacred. Nothing. He was tearing everything to the ground. He was in opposition to everything the Hebrews said, everything the Romans did, because they were 100% of man and they had completely abandoned the Father. He was the most disruptive person in the history of the world, because the world was based right there. So the entire planet, all of the activity, all of the economic activity, all of the power base, all of everything was right where he was at. Today we have the world which is scattered over multitudes of countries, multitudes of economic systems through this technology that we're speaking through right now. So when you read Paul, I ask you to have compassion on the man. Because what I was saying earlier, as I was telling you this discussion earlier, is that if Paul murdered a man and I was able to bring that man to life, Paul was no longer guilty of murder. Because even though he might have done that, the man's no longer dead, so murder is no longer his crime. So by undoing what Paul has, by extracting the spiritual truths about it, and allowing people to receive those spiritual truths, by reinforcing the words of Christ, by reestablishing this body that we're building today, we're literally freeing the likes of Paul. And that's our duty. That's what we're here for. There isn't a judgment about, well, no, I'm not going to say Paul because he deceived people. If I have the opportunity to undo every evil thing that Paul did in order to save him, I'll do it. I might have a few words to him face to face first. So, yes, I've seen the recent movie, Wendy, of Paul, the Apostle of Christ. I've never seen a greater license for a greater creative license and invention of history ever. And sadly, I've known Mel off and on over the years, but he's very much a Roman Catholic person. And I hope to get in touch with him. I hope to bring him out. I haven't attempted to, but I can get a hold of him if I need to, and I will when the time calls for it. When it's supposed to happen, it'll happen. Maybe I'll have him on this channel and we'll debate it out. So very quickly, I saw a question here I wanted to try to answer. Very quickly, I apologize to everybody. What's wrong? Doodle Noodle says, what's wrong with the Catholics? Doodle Noodle. I mean, I could start right now and I'd be repeating the previous 120 videos I have. The Catholic Church is based on pagan beliefs, everything. The Council of Nicaea replacing and removing hundreds of books from the ancient scriptures, deciding what the doctrine was going to be. Doctrine being indoctrination. We could go on forever and ever. I mean, I'm sure everybody here in this chat room will tell you, but there's a lot of evil there. Let me try to get to some of these questions. So did Moses bring back the 10 commandments of the Father or the little g God? So this is a question that somebody posed. I just got a repeat of it here in Skype. Let's put it this way. The laws of man established were, as I've said, the little g God believes that he's righteous too. And keep in mind, we're talking about two of them. That's a much larger, as we've spoken of Enki and Lil, we've spoken of these brothers. You've spoken of Elohim as the Nag Hammadi speak of Elohim and Yahweh being manifest to deceive as the name Cain and Abel. There is so much to that. It's not answerable in 5 minutes here, but I can tell you that it's not the law of the Father. They are all reflections of the law of the Father. But the law of the Father is love, and out of that yields everything else. So, thou shalt not steal, as an example. Yeah, you shouldn't take anything that isn't yours. But stealing gets relegated to a law of man that can be manipulated as to what theft is. The reality of it is this. Sex without marriage. If you don't love somebody, then you're taking something that isn't yours, both of you. So that is stealing. So the translation of it, and that's precisely why that the 10 commandments to be ruled and regulated by men was a problem, because then they abused those rules and those laws. So to be giving those laws, for God to say, hey, here's 10 commandments, he doesn't need to. His law is love, period. It's demonstrated. And every variation of the violation of that law is a violation of his law. The way I've always articulated it for new people out here, for other people, you'll be hearing it again. The law of the Father is honored by every other thing except mankind on this planet. Everybody honors the law of the Father except us. So the trees outside, the tree honors the law of God. It doesn't take anything that it isn't, that it doesn't need, or anything that it's not, that isn't its. So the tree, even though it is bigger and has a bigger root system, it could extract all of the nutrients out of the soil and starve out the grass and the bushes and even other trees around it, smaller trees. But it doesn't. It doesn't take anything that it doesn't need. It doesn't store up. Not even the squirrel that does store up stuff only stores up what he himself needs for the winter. He doesn't store up what he needs for, who knows how long. And he doesn't gather a bunch of stuff so he can con his friends with it, right? He doesn't do that. So everything honors the law of love. And the reality of that is that tree, the roots, what you don't see, if you speak to any of the shamans, they'll go out amongst a field of sage. And what you'll see is tens of thousands of different sage bushes. But the shaman will say, this is a beautiful bush. He sees it as one bush, because what he'll tell you is above you see thousands of different entities of that bush. But underneath the soil, all of their roots have grown together and they share and nurture each other. That's what we should be doing. We don't. Thomas says, love, love, love. Copy that. That's the right law. So these are the types of things. Which books of the Bible are the truth of God? Maggie Ailson. So which books of the Bible are the truth of God? Well, if you read the Bible and you read, like I was saying, 2 Corinthians 4:4, Paul says, little g God of the world has blinded the minds of unbelievers. Who's that God? And do you know who God is? Because if you read in the scriptures, the God of wrath and destruction, the one that wants to wipe out every creeping and crawly thing because he doesn't like what man's doing. So he wants to kill everything else that walks, lives, and eats and breathes, or slithers or creeps and crawls on the ground. That mentality, that's not the Father. So when you're reading the books, the reality of the Bible is that the enemy and the Father are in everything. You have to, discernment comes as a way of understanding the attributes of the Father and understanding the attributes of the enemy. Recognizing that the enemy, just like the word says, you cannot remove these things. The enemy exalted himself on high, placing himself on the throne, calling himself God. So where in the Bible are the enemy's actions where he's taken the name of God? Well, they're everywhere. As articulated, and I've said many times, 2 Samuel 24, where David is told by God, and in there it's written as an upper G case God. So you have to put the lowercase g to it yourself in some cases. Paul was actually in your face telling you about the little g God. But in 2 Samuel, God tells David to count the people for war and taxation. A census, creating a census. And then in the very same verse, at the end of the verse, David is compelled and struck and convicted because of what he's done. Now, God asked him to do this, so why has he got so much guilt for doing that? And that now he's forced to repent to God, another one, for counting the people. And he's punished by that God for doing what God said. This is the bipolar aspect of the Bible that when they go to teach it, you'll say, hey, what about 2 Samuel 24? The pastor will be like, oh, yeah, that was David's nightmare. Like they'll literally make up stuff. They don't have explanations for these things. The word has to be rightly divided by you. And that's why Paul even said that. And that's why I said I have compassion for him, because I believe he's trying to tell you the truth. Okay, somebody said, explain mitochondrial DNA and how they are looking for someone through ancestry DNA testing. Okay, well, one of the most amazing things, if anybody's seen what many think is a CIA operation called Cicada 3301. Cicada are those interesting insects that you hear outside here. Very, very big. And I got a funny story about a cicada after this that happened to me last night. Very quickly, Catherine Willie says, is Ormus okay to take? Depends on which variation of it, but if it's monatomic gold, absolutely. It's great stuff for you. So mitochondrial DNA is the female element. Okay, so every woman has 2 X chromosomes. You have an X chromosome and you have an XM chromosome. One of them's mitochondrial. Mitochondrial DNA contains so many more elements than the Y chromosome. There is much more to the female than meets the eye, which is why the church, through their hidden means, honor the sacred feminine. There's much more there. They honor it for different reasons than the Father would honor the female. That, and if I were to give you an example of a completion of DNA in this world for man, is that we would maintain most men. So here's the whole thing. The woman isn't confused. When a man and a woman conceive a baby, the man contributes. He has an X and a Y chromosome. So he decides whether he's going to give his X chromosome or his Y chromosome. So the man determines truly the sex. The woman's vote in her body always gives an X. Always. It isn't a question. So the woman speaking, if she could speak out loud, she goes, we're going to have a girl. And the guy says, I haven't decided yet what we're going to have. So it's the guy ultimately making the final decision, but it's her X chromosome period that is always going to be present. She's always going to contribute that. So that is where we have the differences in chromosomes, where, like I say, the woman isn't confused. I think it's men that are confused. So it's so funny because so many people have said that, oh, well, you're anti-woman because it's always women attacking you. No, I've got plenty of attackers. It's just that the more visceral ones have been female, but that's probably coincidental, or they had some other attraction. I don't know. So I'm not going to judge where they come from on those things. So, but as far as Ancestry.com and looking up them asking for people's DNA, if you look at the fine print, when you get your DNA done, the results that they give you is a courtesy, but you're literally in the fine print selling your DNA. You're selling yourself. They now have the authority and the ability to make a new you, to replicate you, to clone you. They own it. They can do whatever they want. So if we were allowed to continue, let's imagine AI continues and you've sold your DNA yourself to Ancestry.com. Then all of a sudden they start making these humanoid androids, or these these avatars of you. Well, there isn't a thing legally that you could do about it. Now, I think having many of myself, I have a hard time just dealing with one. Many of myself, I don't know. That could be a that could be a real challenge. So somebody asked if astrology should be avoided. I think anything before you actually know the Father, before you actually know who he is in you, before you have a complete grasp on these things, anything can be a deceiving measure to remove you from that path. I don't follow astrology as a way of finding out what my day is going to be like, because those are also mixed interpretations of people and goes through a filter and is a way to be deceived and manipulated. I don't need somebody to tell me how my day is going to be. The kingdom is within me. This is my kingdom. The kingdom is within me. I'm right now holding the kingdom. This is Father's kingdom. I'm in charge of it. So nobody's going to tell me what this kingdom's going to go through. The Father will determine what I go through. If it's supposed to be bad, then I'll have a bad day. And what do I glean from it? What's my lesson? What did I learn? Because nothing happens by accident. Nothing. So when it comes to that, I would steer away from soothsayers in that way, that where people are trying to tell you what your future is. If you're trying to glean something, forget about that. You determine those things. So that's a weakness. That's a crutch. If you're looking for a crutch, go ahead. I don't want one. Is love and everyone get along its mantra of the Luciferians or New World Order? No, that's the lie. That's the carrot. We just want everybody to get along. But in reality, in the demented thinking of this, this is how they think. We have too many people, which is why you have a depopulation agenda. This is why the Georgia Guidestones show the ultimate population, which they plan on getting to, is 500 million. That they believe that if they can reduce it down and that they can control it to such a degree that everybody will be happy just obeying their rules and laws. But see, you can't get away from the fact that this meat suit is involved. You're going to have a bunch of haves and have-nots, and they're going to choose who it is that those 500 million people will be and who it won't be. So that is that might be what they outwardly say. But again, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. they can have a good statement, but what's behind it ultimately is corrupted because they're being used by the enemy as well. Too long of question to that. So good to see you, Scrub. Always good to see you. And Catherine, you ask again, is Ormus good for me? For you? Well, if it's good for me, it's good for you. I take it. I take Ormus. I take pure monoatomic gold. So monoatomic gold is, you think about this, is that it's gold is a receptor. So your brain and your mind uses electrical activity receptors. So it does increase the ability of mind, but the healing properties and what it does from electrical activity within your body, it allows your body to flow properly from an electrical standpoint and to heal and make itself feel better. There's tremendous properties to it that are good. So I don't think that you would have any issue taking monoatomic gold. You don't need that much. It's very, very small. Let me see. The road to destruction is paved with Republicans. The road to destruction is paved, period, with politics. I don't care what you think. Republicans, Democrats, all of them. They're all just two sides of the same demented coin. It's an illusion that you're actually involved in the political process. I can promise you right now, if America collectively got together secretly and nobody went out and voted for president, they would still announce the votes and exit polls and everything just like they did if people voted. That's the illusion. That is picked. Whoever is president is picked long before it happens. Believe me, there is no such thing as this political process. The evidence that Anons have put out there, the evidence that they've seen of exactly that, where entirely different numbers, where Anons went in and they had gone into the systems of the polls in Ohio and in Pennsylvania, and they had the real results. And the results that were published were entirely different than the real results that were on the machines. They're going to publish whatever results they see. It's all a big drama. It's a big play. It's tail wagging the dog. Let me see. Where can I get this Ormus for mental? Will be good for mental retardation. I don't know whether I expose that. I don't know what your intent is. I'll expose that message. It was blocking it, and that was a Kindle Fire in You. For mental retardation, I can tell you right now that I've met a lot of people, and to say that somebody is mentally retarded, I've met a lot of people that the world considers mentally retarded. I've also met a lot of Down syndrome children. I can tell you right now, after meeting some of them, the way that they feel, speak, and treat other people in love all the time, I would say that we're the retarded ones and that they're the ones that are correct. We need to correct ourselves and be more like them. Soros owns the voting machine. Soros is just a piece of the pawn. Politics, folks, I'm telling you right now, politics and that distraction of you that you think that something can be solved. You think that there is that the power base of this country or the world. Let's remember, we got 10 obelisks around the world and the 10 power structures. It's not because they like the same architecture. It's all of the Masonic structure. This goes way, way, way back. The history of the political machine and the illusion and the manipulation of the people is so well documented if you're actually paying attention to anything. But politics is an illusion. As I said, the enemy doesn't have problems killing his own. He'll eat his own. He has no problem. He's two-faced. He'll love you with one side of it and destroy you with the other side, with the other face. Destroying the foundations of what you think is the power structure in this country is a requirement for you to maintain your belief in the country. If they don't destroy the previous power structure and raise up a new one and say, we've killed the old people, all of the old stuff of the past is gone, but they bring in a new structure of more oppressive and remove more of your freedoms, or focus more on, hey, we're going to make you rich, and they'll make everybody a little bit more wealthy for the first 10 years, and then they'll re-enslave you within their monetary systems so you even become more of a slave. or more relegated to the sidelines, where you become more dependent upon the government. Because I can tell you this, with AI and with robotic machines and doing everything, it was like I was at the store and I watched a guy go up to the cashier and he put a bunch of change in front of the cashier, and the cashier's irritated counting this change. And he's like, and he's pissed off. And so that guy goes out and the cashier's like, I'm sorry it took so long. I hate counting all that change. And I said, that's the only function left that keeps your job here. When they remove change, your job is finished. Everything is robotic. Everything is scan it, pay with a credit card. When there is no longer the need to count that change, your job is done, dude. You have completely missed the one thing that should make you appreciative that you actually have the position in the first place. And that guy just looked at me like, oh my gosh. So, see, that's the problem. You don't want to be around me too much. I'll point out all that stuff. It's pretty painful. So let me see other questions. I didn't plan on this being very long. I just wanted to update about the show tonight. I'm going to try to get in a nap before the show tonight. I do want to apologize. The climate has changed here, and we now have the monsoons have gone away. It's gone dry instantly. It was like somebody flipped a switch, and now pollen out there, and I have really bad sinuses. I had a thermal in my face one time, and the gas which came out of it is negative 300 degrees Celsius, and it burnt my sinuses, and it's been a problem ever since. So my sinuses, when they get bad, it goes through all my chest, all my head. So I apologize that if I accidentally don't mute the mic in time and cough in your ear. Let me see. Tonight, could you please re-announce about the show? Re-announce about which show? I'll be on the show that I'm announcing. Or are you talking about re-announce the Hopi? I'm not quite sure what that is, so you can clarify. Love you too. Thank you very much. Sending the love. Cicada 3301, please talk about this. So if you're not aware, I wanted to tell you about the cicada in my leg, but I'll tell you about Cicada 3301. If you've never watched it, you can YouTube, search Cicada 3301, and there's some really, really good stories that'll give you an understanding of it. A cicada is a very cryptic insect. It first is it doesn't have wings, and it different cicadas, but primarily the one that they have on the cicada project is that they are underground. They're under the soil for anywhere from 12 years to the 17-year cycle of them is 12 years to 17 years. And then they'll come out of the ground, they'll crawl up on a tree, they'll bust out of their shell, and they'll have wings like a butterfly. They're a very friendly insect. They don't have a bite or a stinger or a smell or anything. Their entire protective mechanism for themselves, their defense mechanism, is that they avoid becoming an insect that is on the menu of any of the creatures, because they don't come out every year. They have these different cycles. So they'll come out this year, and then years will go by, 12 years in some cases, and then they'll come out. So they kind of disrupt like I said, they're not on the menu because none of the animals, none of the birds are used to eating them. So they see them, and by the time they figure out that they might be food, they're gone again. Now, with that said, they also have a song, and the song is very unique and incredibly loud. You'll get 1,000 of these things in these trees around me, and believe me, I could be on the phone and I can't even hear myself. They're that loud. Now, I've taken their song and I've put that into a spectrometer and broke down the audio of their vibration. And they create it with their body, with their back end. And it's very much, once you speed it up a very specific amount of times, it translates into binary code. So there is something that's quite unique about the insect that still is yet to be disclosed or discovered, and will be in its time. But with that said, Cicada 3301 became a very covert. Nobody really knows who ran the program. They suspect it would be an organization like the CIA, where they would put riddles up on Twitter. And those people that would solve a riddle, and quite complicated riddles, these are not simple. So those that can undo riddles are very, very good at unencrypting, because a riddle is encryption. And what it would do is it would lead you to another place and to a song, where then you would have to break it down into the spectrometer, and you would be able to break it down as far as vowels and consonants, and a really complicated riddle solving. And then they would have people go to different locations around the world when they solved a riddle to go to a specific place. Once they solved the riddle, it would give them GPS coordinates for the solution of the riddle would be GPS coordinates to a specific location. And so they'd get on a plane and they'd fly to that location, and there'd be a bus stop or something there, and there would be a piece of paper that would have a picture of a cicada. And so they would tear that off, and then they would be able to know with that, and there would be another code, and they could respond and say, I got it. So this was like a recruiting. Now, if you think about it, all the scriptures speak of, and this kind of goes back to the mitochondrial DNA, because see, Christ was a man that had mitochondrial DNA. That the man, as I said, typically doesn't have mitochondrial DNA at all. So the rarity would be a man that could be complete in spirit would have to have a Y chromosome and an X chromosome, but not just the normal X, but a Y chromosome. And with that, he would be enlightened to a degree, because he would have Eve back in him, essentially. He would be a perfect match of the feminine and the masculine, which would allow him to actually combine the true attributes of the Father and think clearly and be more psychologically sound. That part of why we're broken is because we're lacking those attributes. And so it is said that I don't have any evidence of this, but it's said that some of the blood that they did have evidence that could have been from Christ tested, and that it is X with also a Y mitochondrial or X mitochondrial DNA of Jesus. If this is the case, it would make perfect sense to me. The mitochondrial DNA in a man, if any of you have a child that has been tested and you have a boy that has mitochondrial DNA, I can promise you right now that child is probably problematic at school. He does not get along with the world. He's a complete recluse from the rest of everybody. He's not like anybody else. And I know what that feels like. So Renee Marshall says, we love you, Derek. Just got on, lucky I did. Glad to see you here. So going into the cicada, and this leads into that, is that because somebody might be able to solve riddles, every prophecy about the return of the Son of Man is that he will speak in riddles, that he will have these cryptic meanings, that he will know this stuff. And so even when you watch Lord of the Rings, the return of Gandalf being Gandalf the White, and he's talking, you'll hear Aragorn respond to him and go, you're always talking in riddles. That was a hit for that movie. So with that said, is that during this time, if the powers of the world are looking for people that are risen up, that are enlightened into the Son of Man, they're definitely going to be able to have the ability to unencrypt. They're going to have the ability to solve very complicated riddles. They're going to be able to see these things. So in looking for that, they may have been recruiting them, not only to recruit them for their agency itself, but also to get them under their wing, rather than allowing them being out here solving these riddles for you. So whatever the people would be seeking, I'm sure. And here's the amazing part, is that the people, once they solved these riddles, these people would be on blogs and talking about, oh, I solved this riddle. And they go, now the people that actually solved them and got those tickets, nobody knows where they're at. So Cicada 3301 is really, really interesting. And the mere fact that they used 3301 told me that they know a lot about the secret codes. A lot. So that was a long answer. Oh, I wanted to tell you the cicada story if anybody are interested. So last night I'm on the phone and I'm speaking with John from Best Time Podcast after our radio show. And I'm sitting outside and it's pitch dark outside. Now cicadas live in the trees and I love the creatures. And as I said, they're very loud and they scream, this really, really loud buzz. And so I'm sitting there talking to him on the phone and I feel something on my leg. Well, I have jeans on that are pretty tight to my boots. And but I feel something crawling on my leg while I'm talking to him, and I reach down and I put my hand just on my pant leg, on the pants itself, and underneath the pant leg, it feels like a golf ball. huge something. And I put my hand on it and it starts going, eh, and I smack it and I pulled it out of my pant leg really quick and it's screaming. I still can't see because it's pitch dark and it's screaming. I turned on the light on my cell phone to see it and it was a cicada crawling on my leg. I'm like, what are you doing there, buddy? I mean, like up by my knee. It was a little creepy, but and they're quite big. I mean, they're like this big. They're huge, you know, about that thick. So it's not like it's a small insect crawling up your leg. It's like a freaking mouse. So let me see. For files, for flies, hang a plastic bag with water and some pennies in it so the light goes through the bag and the flies will leave. Well, I can tell you this. I have fly bags. I have a fly jar. Okay, it's a 1-gallon jar. And in 2 days, that jar will be filled with 4 inches thick of flies. It's crazy. The flies out here, no matter where you go, all over Arizona right now. It's quite. If they all flew up and flew into a cloud, you'd probably be able to see that cloud on radar. So Mars, Arizona, yeah, it kind of feels like that. Let me see any other questions before I close up shop here. Cindy Stewart. Oh, damn, I'm in trouble. Why are you in trouble? What'd you do? Spill the beans. Let's get this. Try to find Claudio Silver, great antibacterial. Tracy and his thoughts on emerald. Tracy. Okay, so Kimber's Kiss. What are my thoughts on the emerald tablets? Well, there's a lot of truth in them. Yet again, I mean, you can read the Atrahasis, you can read the ancient Sumerian tablets, you can read the other Sumerian texts, you can read the story of the creation, you can read the Sefer Yesidov, you can read all of these. They're collectively, they are all telling you the same thing. So it's if you're looking to be more confused, then I would say jump around to all of these books. But yes, there is a tremendous amount of truth in the book of Thoth, and which think about thought, because that's really how it's pronounced. It's truly thought, and there is a lot more there that will give you evidence of where we've come from. Again, many of these stories were told in ways that could be understood to the people that they were writing to at the time. And J.R. Herrera, I'll get to that question in just a second. And it gets confusing for people because you end up having multitudes of different names for the same deities. It's kind of like the Hebrews naming Noah. That wasn't his name. His name was Ziasudra. So, and then in between that, there was actually a different name. So every people that tell a story give a name that they'll understand. It's kind of like naming your kid in America has a very American name, you know, John Smith or Joe Smith or something like that. If you go to another country, they'll have a different name. It's kind of like if you go to Korea, everybody is named Park, right? That name is everywhere. So they have their names that mean something and that continue family lines, but those names always have a meaning behind them. So every single people that have a different writing or writing about it to explain that story to their people, the name of that person wouldn't mean anything. Every name in the Hebrew has a meaning behind it. So like the name Israel, like I said, it means to wrestle with God. And Emmanuel means God with us, things like that. The name has a meaning in literally the language itself. So I'll do another show. The show tonight, for everybody that's just joining, on Jeffrey Doherty's show, which after the fact, Jeffrey Doherty, if you just type in Jeffrey Doherty, in fact, I'll try to bring up a link here and post it for you. It'll be tonight at 9 p.m. Pacific time. And that is with myself, Jeff Doherty, and Rex Bear. And there it is. That's Jeff Doherty's channel. Tonight at 9 o'clock. What monoatomic gold do I take? Chris Cooper is asking. What is safe? There is a guy, and I don't want to overload his site again, but let me tell you, hold on one second. Okay, I don't have glasses, so I got to try to read this without glasses. ZP Tech. ZPTECH. And this is the astrolite. Astrolite. So this is the monatomic gold. Now, for those of you that have had previous cocaine, it's very, very fine powder. Those of you that have former cocaine or habits, you can probably snort it and get a better value out of it. At least it won't be illegal to snort, right? Somebody asked me if I had horses. I don't have, I mean, there are horses right next door here, so they bring in lots of flies. I am a horse lover. I've been riding since I was a little kid. I primarily try to ride bareback. I jump, whatever. I've done horse stunts. In the movie Lightning Jack, I was the, Cuba was doing it, and we needed people to ride horses in our posse. So I was one of the lead posse members with old things. Got a lot of injuries from that movie. Riding horses downhill full speed, because the director, if you've ever seen a movie called The Man from Snowy River, there's a famous scene in that movie of the horses running downhill, which you know is not a very good thing to do, but running downhill full speed. And everybody, you know, anybody that watched it that knows how to ride a horse goes, wow, that's amazing. Look at those guys riding those horses. Well, it was the same director from The Man of Snowy River that was directing Lightning Jack. So he wanted to make sure that he, tried to recreate that. So it was an adventure, to say the least. Yes. Riding a horse down a mountain with the steepest grade at full speed with 150 horses behind you can be a very painful adventure if your cinch snaps and you fall over the head of the horse and all the other horses trample you as you go down the mountain. So that was me. But yes, I can ride. And I do love horses, man. Absolutely adore them. Love them. They are a creature that are, we connect with them. Horses and I can jump on a wild horse. I won't even think twice about it. I have just a way with horses that I've had my whole life. If there's a horse that's a problematic horse that people have had, anytime I get on him, by the time I'm finished, he's not going to be a problem anymore, because there's a way to handle horses. And even people that believe that they know horses, they don't. They're very much a spiritual animal. You have to learn how to speak to them. Sarah says, I'm a purple ass. It hid your thing, but I'll put it on there anyways. Gary said Hidalgo. Yeah, I love that movie. Why are some not... hold on here. So Sarah says, why are some not shattered when seeing, hearing, and learning these truths? Quite honestly, because they've already come to terms with them. People don't get, you've been expecting it. And the example that I'll give you is the old lady that was in her mid to late 80s that emailed me and said that her grandfather and her father and her brothers were pastors, and she had been an elder of her church for 40 years or something like that. And she knew these truths always inside. And she wasn't shattered at all by hearing them. In fact, she was relieved and felt like that she could finally die, because she knew that the world was going to know these truths, that they were being woken up to this, that she couldn't believe that people didn't know this all along. But she never spoke up in church because she knew it wasn't hers to say. And I've heard that a lot. In fact, many times that I've confronted some pastors that I believe do know these truths, and I've asked them, why didn't you tell people the truth? And they've said to me, it's not mine to tell. So it was always a remarkable response. And I never quite understood it, but the more the more we go, I understand it more and more. And I'm getting more texts. Who's texting me? Any more questions here? And then we'll wrap this up. I'll stop taking up so much of your time. If the Global Witness needs tech help, I'm around. Computer programming, albeit not the best. Scrub, I'll put you to work. I've always got stuff that could be done. Just let me know. Send me. You've got my email, I believe. Send me an email. Let me know what kind of what kind of programming, what kind of work you do. Is it PHP or is it C++ or what kind of code? Ruby on Rails? Do you know SSL very well? Backend web server? Which types of web servers? Apache? And whatever you know. Got the sun. Sorry, it's shining in your eyes. I'll try to keep it out of your eyes. So are we to come to these truths ourselves? Asks Magpie. Magpie, it's critical that you come to these truths yourselves. It's critical that you don't just take what I say. It's critical that you actually go and find it yourself, because our brokenness in this flesh, what makes us so problematic, is that we live in a banking system world. You might not think that that's impacted you. You might not think that these currencies have impacted you and that the way we live, but that is an abandonment of true value and true exchange of true value in this world. It is absolutely abandoning who we really are. And as a result of it, we have become accustomed to this debt borrower system. Emotionally, physically, spiritually, everything we do is a debt system. That we'll hold something, we'll go, oh, I forgive you. But we'll bring this up and go, I forgave you that one time. We'll use it as a debt system against somebody. We're always putting people in bondage to us. When somebody comes up and wants to give you advice and go, hey, I'm just helping you and looking out for you here. They're putting you in bondage. They're asking you, or they're giving you advice you didn't ask for. They're trying to insert themselves into a place that you didn't require them to come into. You didn't ask them for help. They just offer it. That's bondage. So with that said, that if I give you a truth in your spirit, whether you can acknowledge it or not, and you get something from somebody else, that number one, you feel like that that it's mine and I've given it to you. But worse yet, that if somebody comes and can destroy my image, the box, then they destroy the truth as well, because it was my truth. It never was your truth. So this is why I say it's critical that you find these truths on your own, and that you don't give them to me. They're not my truths. Truth is not owned. It can't be altered. It's not mine. It's not yours. But you have to know it inside you, and that you discovered on your own. And this is precisely why Christ responded to questions with a question. So if you ask me what color is the sky, and I wanted you to truly know that and to know that it was yours, I would ask you, if you mix yellow and green together, what color do you get? And with that, you would go blue. Well, you would never forget that process, because you solved the equation to come to the conclusion on your own. And so it's a very powerful thing. And that told me that Christ would do that. That told me that he understood the psychological dilemma that the people had at that time. And that to me was the most remarkable thing about what I discovered about him. It's what made me feel like I knew him personally in such a profound way. One of these things, every single time I turned around, he would do something that I do. And I would go, oh my gosh, that's why I would do that. It was just remarkable. And so I always tell you that I lift up the stone and I go, look. And so you find it yourself. And that's why I won't go into, I can definitely, if I sit and teach, and anybody that's sat and listened to me, I'll go into great depth and great detail. But here, I'll draw a dot here and a dot here, and then go, you draw the line in between. You connect those dots together. Because once you connect those dots together, you discovered that truth. And if somebody kills me, I don't die. Your truths don't die with me. So let's see what other questions. Did I answer that question okay for you? Let's see. Palladian Scientist, UFO, good to see you. Dale Israel, good to see you. I don't think I've seen you before. Angie W. Erica Belcher, good to see you as well. Supernatural. A. Becca. Paula Amon's, always good to see you. Scrub, thumbs up. All right. Jason Rios, good to see you as well. Robin Robinson, Ledford, good to see you. So let me try to get some of these questions, other ones. When can we go home? Boy, I feel you. I feel you with that question. The reality is, when you learn you can go home anytime you want here, 1 foot on the sand, 1 foot on the sea. When you need to escape, you escape spiritually, you separate yourself. It truly does take you to that place. That's what meditation, people have different words to these things, but when you need to separate yourself, look, there's a reason why Christ got out of Dodge, right? Said he departed, he withdrew from the people and went up into the mountains by himself. I copy that. I get it. Hi, Shirley Graham. Hi, good to see you. Let me see. Boy, it's always hard to, I apologize, guys, for trying to read these questions, but the bouncing going so quickly makes it difficult. And I have it on a delay, but that delay doesn't help very much. Appreciate you, Anton. Even if we had to get away, even if you had to get away from humanity, that's really what it was about. Getting away from people, because the brokenness also has an impact on you. So I suggest that anybody, that you all try to, get away for a while. Tracy, thank you for posting the globalwitnessme.me. Everybody, if you haven't gone, we do have the community website. It's not for pay. Nobody's making money. There's no ads. Nobody's tracking anything. It's a safe place for you to go, discuss these truths. Nobody's going to judge you. Don't judge anybody else. It's terrific. It looks like Facebook, although it isn't. You can post pictures and videos and songs, and you can create blogs. It's really terrific. So sign up. It's not going to charge anything. There are a lot of moderators in there. So if somebody's out of line, they're going to be booted out of there. Just flag their post, and they'll be taken out of there. So this is intended to be a safe place for people to go. There's no room for, and this isn't about censoring anybody, right? It's about having a place, call it a place of fellowship that you can go in safety. Somebody says, oh, you want to create a place of censorship. I could care less. Take your censorship somewhere else. This isn't about censoring. If somebody comes in and they want to speak all sorts of hate, I will censor you. I'll just shut you up, because there's no room for any of that. Not anymore, guys. Not anymore. We're not in a place and a time where we can afford that at all. There's no room for any hate, hating on people or attacking people and judging people. People coming in here and acting like they're self-righteous, and they know if they have issues with the way that we're talking about scripture here, well, then bring your scriptural studies, bring your scriptural truths to the radio show, bring your scriptural truths to me in email. I'll bring you on the show. We'll talk about these things like people, like human beings. We're all seeking for the Father. We're all seeking these truths. If you have the temerity, then come. If you don't, stay away. You will be blocked. There's no room for it. Good to see you, Jason Rios. May I record and share your videos, Ghost 3, on my page? Which, I don't know what your page is. Is your page on YouTube? I don't know what your page is. If I would suggest this, if anybody does want to copy videos, here's the thing, and I'm going to tell you just how fair use works. That I don't have to report somebody copying my video. Somebody else can report it. And that they have codec filtration. So they also have a mechanism where they seek out codecs. And the codec is the compression of your audio and the compression of your video. It's a video codec and there's an audio codec. So a video codec would be an MPEG-4 or a WMV. An audio codec is an MPEG-3 or a variant of many other audio codecs. So with that said, that as they scan, they might take down your video and they might take down your whole channel by copying. So if you are and you want to have it on, then you have some of the video, but add your own context to it. So just like the haters do, right? They fall under the fair use. They want to have a video, they'll have what I say, and then they want to say, see, he's lying about something or blah, 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 and they don't use any scripture. They just want to throw stones. But that falls under fair use. So if you use it as a further teaching, when they do get there and it goes through their review process, it'll come up as a fair use. So that's just my advice, because otherwise they might take down your channel, and I'd hate to see that. So let me see what else. Lisa Roseter, am I looking to gather the 144,000? I'm not going to tell you that I'm looking to gather the 144,000. If the Father sees fit to gather them through this avenue, then so be it. Please discuss the thoughts on the 13 bloodlines of the Illuminati and how it's playing into current events. Well, they're very specific. The reason why is this has to go back. I'm going to go back a little bit into some of the Sumerian history, because clearly the bloodlines of these previous gods, right? So you have the Enki and Enlil going back. You've got other gods in between there that their adherence to where they come from and how they come from is very important. Even when you look at the Abrahamic text, when you look at Abraham, who when he went to Pharaoh and he told his wife, hey, when you tell Pharaoh, when you see Pharaoh, he's going to love you, because she was very fair. She was white. He was dark. So she was of the Illuminati bloodline. She was of the elite bloodline. Now, she was actually Abraham's half-sister, because that's how their bloodlines work, is that if you want to maintain the bloodline, you have to be with your half-sister. So all of these mixed bloodlines, this is why they're not necessarily highly intelligent. There is some degrading in it. It's really a weird thing, but they have hidden their bloodlines within those types of principles, and they hide the people. So when you have Princess Diana being put with Charles, that's not an accident. That's why she was standing next to him like, I really don't dig this dude, and he could care less about her, right? He liked Camilla and all of that. So they'll always have that. They don't mix their bloodlines for no reason whatsoever. All of those bloodlines are put together because they honor the God of this world, and the God of this world has that bloodline. So they have, and there are different gods of those times, and so they have manifest these bloodlines. So that's why nobody gets in, and that's also why they look for those in their bloodlines, that when they do find these things, and they want to know your blood and your DNA and the history of your DNA, so they can try to squash the opposition gods' bloodlines as well. So there is a lot more there, Dwayne. I appreciate the question, but that's an entire 2-hour broadcast in and of itself, with a bunch of texts around me. And quite honestly, I mean, just to know that they do that is the important thing. I try to focus on not being distracted. To know something, but to spend too much time on it is a distraction of you from your spiritual walk, from you finding yourself, that it's far more important to not allow the enemy and the distractive measures that these psychological operations are out there doing, kind of like flat earth. I could care less what shape the earth is. It is so irrelevant, right? So just the example. Let's imagine the earth is flat and square. Let's say it's a box. As many of you heard me say, destruction comes to it no matter what shape it is. But more importantly, let's say, for you flat earthers out there, let's say that everybody right now agrees that earth is flat. What did that change? Is this thing on? What did that change? Nothing. If the earth is flat, tell me what it solves. That's the amazing thing about flat earthers. I don't care. I have evidence that I believe in what it is. And I'm not saying whether I agree that it's flat or round or concave or whatever shape you want to say it is. What difference does it make? Did you solve anything by convincing the world that it's flat? No? Well, then shut up, because it's unproductive and it's absolutely a psychological operation to distract everybody from the true path that they need to be on, which is learning who they are. And a flat earth doesn't tell you who you are. Sorry to be chimey on that one. How do you know that you are blocked? Blocked where? If you're blocked here, well, then your comment doesn't show up. So you're not blocked. And that was Anton. And Rhesus, I may, is Rhesus on here? Because, hey, John, Best Damn Podcast. Good to see you, brother. I wanted to tell, because there was a couple people, as these, you see this chat, how it pops up. Well, I have the ability to look at the channel and and it has the options on the side. Well, sometimes that I've been just trying to look and see your channel or who you are and to bring up your channel, I've gone there, and when it moved up, it brought it down, and I accidentally blocked a few people. And of course, they're going so fast, I couldn't unblock it, and I didn't really see who it was that I blocked. So good to see you, Texas Maid. Debbie Bell, good to see you. Does my comment show up? Yes, I see you. Paul L., Christ consciousness. Yes, you are witnessing it. So when you're in Christ, we all start hearing the same things, feeling the same things, thinking the same things, and you witness it on a daily basis. You'll see on my channel that I'll speak about something. I'll talk about a scripture or a very specific subject matter, and there will be a multitude of people that were just talking about that or found that exact same scripture. That means that we're all feeling the same things at the same times in this seeking process, and it's truly beautiful. Imagine when of one accord and of one mind, when you no longer even have to show up at my channel. I'm just talking to you. You're talking to me. We all know what's going on. That's the most powerful thing ever, and probably the most terrifying thing for the powers that be. If you had 1 million people that were all of one mind and all of one accord, they're indestructible. So, Sherry Spears, I really enjoy your show. Thank you very much. I appreciate you very much. Blue Rose, Kundalini and chakras, are they the enemy of the Father? Let me put it this way. If you read the ancient Sumerian text, you'll figure out that Enki is very much the one that established different receptors within your spine, and that he was in charge of creating and utilizing those. So, I can tell you this much, though, that anytime something is made like that, it's kind of so it's a good thing and a bad thing. Let me put it this way. I believe that he created it for his own function, for control mechanism over something else. I believe that it was control, that it was created as a way of control. But just like in programming, just like anything that I would write and create in a program, that if I create an avenue into the program, well then, and I'm using it for my own, like I create a back door, well, that back door that I create can be used by somebody else. So I believe that if you're in the Father and if you're in the Spirit and you know who the opposition is, that you know the enemy, that you know these things, that it can become a far greater power for you to be able to enlighten yourself, to be able to connect with the Father, that there is positive that can come from it. But at the same time, I believe that more people are taken captive by the enemy and the spirit of the enemy by not being fully found and strongly established in the Father before messing with that stuff. It's the same thing that I tell people when they ask me about weed or mushrooms or any of that. That's why you go and you do, ayahuasca with a shaman in South America. Something like that. You need a guide. And you need to be prepared spiritually. You need to be strong, because otherwise you become an easy target. So with everything out there, I would tell you that there are powerful things. It's kind of like, anything could be a weapon for good or a weapon for bad. So let me see. Seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all else will be given to you. Copy that, Dale Israel. There's no question. If everybody followed that, seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and then all of these things will be added unto you. Everything you need will be added unto you. Seeking ye first the kingdom of God. Where did Christ tell you the kingdom of God is? Right here. Seek this kingdom. Figure out your role within that kingdom. and know that you're put over top of that kingdom. That doesn't make you dominant. That means that the kingdom is combined, that I'm a portion, just like DNA, just like a cell in my body. As the body, this kingdom I'm in charge of, your kingdom you're in charge of, combined, you, myself, and everybody else in the Spirit of Christ that knows the Father, we collectively make up the body of the Father, period. What are the mountains that we're going to? Matt Burkett asked. We're going to be going to the San Francisco Peaks. We're going to be going to Monument Valley. We'll be going into Hopi territory on many of the mesas. So we, like I said, we'll use one central location as a base camp that we can then drive to these locations, so we don't have to reestablish a new base camp. That's a lot, very, very time consuming. Those that do want to come, like I said, email that we that can contribute, bringing materials and supplies and things that we're going to need. We're definitely looking at doing that. Let me see. So Dixie Keller, tongues, speaking in tongues. Everybody interested in that subject? I can tell you this: it's the most convoluted and corrupt element that I'll see in the churches today. That there is a tongue. There are tongues of those that we can't comprehend. There is an angelic tongue. Let's remember that there are the fallen. There is an angelic tongue. There are many tongues that are written in your DNA, period. There are many languages. All of these things are written on you. You have so much that is already established in you that you can't even comprehend how much of it is actually already in you until it begins to open up. But if you look around at videos of many of these people speaking in tongues and flopping themselves on the floor, and pastors smacking a guy in his face and then being slain, quote, in the spirit, none of that stuff, none of that is scriptural. That is straight black magic. That is straight of the enemy. So when you say speaking in tongues, believe me when I tell you that when you hear true tongues of the angels, you know it. That's all I can tell you. You will know it and understand it within you. And when people are doing it and they're trying, just like it does speak of scripture, you're doing it out there, you're trying to speak in tongues in front of somebody, you're looking to impress people, and that's just, and it's unbelievable. Some of the videos that I've actually witnessed, I got to tell you, it's nauseating to me that people would accept that as the Father and not recognize it right away as being of the enemy. I mean, straight demonic. All you have to do is add a bunch of beasts and goblins behind them and you'll recognize it. But because it's a pastor standing on a stage at a church, everybody accepts it as being of the Father. There's none of that. And when you know the Father inside, you'll know that'll absolutely rub you the wrong way. Let me see. Isn't it true that everyone will speak in a tongue? Yes, let me just tell you this. This language I'm speaking into you right now, the English language was designed and incorporated to deceive people. Unfortunately, it's the language that all of you speak. It's the language that I grew up speaking. So it's the language that we have to communicate. It is an awful, awful language when it comes to actually communicating things. When you begin to understand other languages where one word will represent 4 or 5 different things, and it depends on the intonation of or the context at which you spoke it, it means different things, and you can actually be more expressive. You can explain things in better detail. But I'll tell you this much, is that our true core language, where we come from, isn't this. And yes, all of us will actually understand and speak a tongue. Like I said, these languages are written on you, that when the Father wants these things awake, and as the veil continues to break, and as we become closer, you will begin to understand other languages, and it'll startle you. Hold on. I just saw a question that just the second I went to look at it, it went away. Let me try to back up here. Do I have a tentative date or month set for the trip? I'm looking at late October, mid-November, somewhere around there. I'm guessing that it's probably going to be closer to November and potentially even the first week in December. And the reason why I'm choosing this is, number one, so it's not hot, that it's actually cold. It's easier to warm yourself up than it is to cool yourself down. in the middle of the desert. And so the trip, what we're going to do, but also from a cosmological standpoint, from an ancient prophecy standpoint, from the Hopis, from the Navajo, from many of the records of UFO activity in that area, all of that stuff happens in November, December area. So I figure that that's going to be a better time for us to be there. I don't know why. I go off of instinct and what I feel I'm being led to do. Let me see. Thoughts on an out-of-body experience. What makes you think I'm here right now? Out-of-body experience. I would say that there is, again, just like I was saying earlier, that there's a danger if you're not prepared to anything. But an out-of-body experience is something that I experience anytime that I'm in the spirit. That I give this flesh so little credibility that when you flee from it so much, I feel like an alien here on this planet right now. That I'm 9 times out of 10, if you talk to me at any point in time during the day, I'm in the spirit. I'm really not participating in this world in any way. I'm very much always in the spirit, always in thought, always in feeling, always speaking to the Father, always. When somebody says, hey, I never see you pray, I go, what are you talking about? You've been here for the past 45 minutes. I've been in prayer the entire time. Just because I don't pray like you do, and just because I don't do it outwardly, so I demonstrate to you that I'm doing it. I'm in constant prayer, constant. I'm never not in communion. I'm never not, except for the very odd time, and I don't like it. It's a very uncomfortable place. I don't like not being in communion with the Father. I don't like not being connected. I don't like being in this world at all. I try to separate myself at all costs. My nap, Lou asked. Yeah, I do need one. Best Dad Podcast, 100. Mrs. B asks, what is the difference between soul and spirit? Thank you for my great videos. Thank you for watching. Difference between soul and spirit. Soul is your body. Is this. Spirit is the Father's. Soul is the enemy's, which is why this is a soul body trap, which is why harvesting of souls is very prevalent. Two very, very different things. Your spirit is the Father's. Your soul is the enemy's. So think of it as the two different spirits that are within you. The enemy controls one, the Father controls the other. Think about this. When a ship goes down and they give you a number of how many people died, they'll say 1,300 souls were lost. Their spirits weren't lost. Those are eternal. Your spirit is eternal. That's why there's eternal damnation or eternal paradise. You're already an eternal being, folks. So stop trying to gain eternity. You have it. You just have to decide where you're going to spend eternity and work on focusing on that. Let me see. I think I accidentally just hid somebody. Sorry, Sheila. I can't. Or here, let me try to. Oh gosh, dang it! It went away. Well, I'm sorry, folks. This is quite hard. I need somebody managing my. Very quickly, R. Gregory, cubit or cubit, ark or ark. The Ark of the Covenant. 2 gold wings, right? The cherubim on top. Very specific dimensions. Gold, silver, the elements that are involved in it. That is essentially if I were to tell you what they were building with the dimensions and the materials specifically, and the dimensions and the way that it was made up, I would tell you right now that whatever they put into the center of that thing, that the 2 wings of the cherubim facing each other, that becomes some type of arc reactor, that the Ark of the Covenant is a device that could open up portals, make the water part, that could do things, which is why Pharaoh was okay letting the Hebrews go, but then he pursued them. The reason why he pursued them is because they pillaged all of the things, and Moses took something that was quite valuable to the Pharaoh, which was the Ark of the Covenant. Ark is not an ark like a boat. It is an ark like an arc reactor, as in electrical. It's a device, people. Show 11/11 would be a good date. I believe 11/11 would make an awesome date. Let me see who said that. That's Dwayne. So Dwayne, that would be the type of date that I would pick. Ryan Ferguson says Ark of the Covenant hologram. Potentially. Change the spelling of Ark to ARC and you got it right. Let me see. Was Satan Halal? Well, lots of different entities representing the same energy. So let me put it this way. John, if you and I, from a historical standpoint, had the same agenda. So let's put it this way. George Bush Sr., George Bush Jr., they both come in doing the same thing. Both of them, the same person. Same agenda, same identity. Doesn't matter about the same name. They were accomplishing the same order. They had the same agenda. They are the same person. Let me see. Wendy B says, Derek, Ron Wyatt claims to have found the Ark of the Covenant and that it has blood on the mercy seat. I can tell you right now, he hasn't found the Ark of the Covenant. I'm just going to say that. He has not found the Ark of the Covenant. And by the way, if you think about this, if you want to, what I just said about the Ark of the Covenant, that it's a device. I believe that whatever they put into the Ark of the Covenant that creates very much I would say, such a nuclear fusion. And if you think about it, that the sons of Aaron and Moses, that they were, in scriptural standpoint, when it says that they were by the mercy seat when the Spirit of God or the energy of God came into it and they were killed, those sons had to be taken outside of the camp and removed from the camp for good reason, because they were most likely nuclear or radioactive. So when you begin to read scripture and you read that, you're like, oh, copy that. I got it. There's a reason why the priest around has to wear specific clothing. The linen that it speaks of, the jewels and the chest plate. These things are about repelling that energy, that he would be a negative force to a positive force, so he could be right by the Ark of the Covenant and would not get an ark to himself, which is why he had to specifically dress and he had to know the details of the secrets of the ark in order to be around it. Dale Israel, we are all global witnesses, brothers and sisters in love. Yes. Yes. You're getting it. You're getting it. I appreciate that, Dale. Yes. Souls that are ill, do they have demons in them? Yes, they do. I could tell you right now that most people in this world do not realize the amount of demons in them. When you read about the man that Christ approached that had a legion in him. And by the way, let me help everybody solve something. It's amazing the association that we have by imaging, that when people see that mask up there, they go, oh, you're demonic, because they say we are legion. Legion is like, if I said a cup of water, it's a measurement. Legion is a measurement, folks. Legion is a measurement. That's why there is a legion in an army. That means a specific amount of people that make up the measurement of a legion. So legion meant he had that many demons in him. Legion doesn't mean demonic. You have a legion of army. You have a legion of angels, folks. Stop thinking that legion means demonic. It's a measurement. It's ridiculous that we're so relegated down to these associations with something that you can't even. That's what I mean by the language. It's inadequate. So, and I was answering a question there, and I got sidetracked when it came to the legion. Let me try to find that again. So, do they have demons in them? Yes. Many people have more demons than they recognize, than they realize. So let's imagine this. You have a soul that hasn't been sent back through its system, so to speak. And he's an alcoholic and he dies. He's a really bad alcoholic. His soul doesn't stop from not wanting to drink. That is the conditioning of his consciousness. He still wants to drink. So if he wants to have a drink, he needs to find somebody to have that drink for him. So he becomes part of that soul. That person receives that alcoholic demon in him, and he'll convince you to drink because he wants it. That's how this functions. I hope that helps. So when you do things that you hate that you do, but you can't stop yourself from doing them, think about that. Hola, Derek, from Marcia. Hola, mi nombre es Derek Bros. Let me see. Wow, for high-tech history, media sound like struggling, failing, and confusion. So who is that? CamelTube 9429. Wow, for a high-tech history and media to sound like struggling with failing and confusion. Let me tell you something, Camel. I probably am the least confused person you'll ever listen to. There's no confusion because you can't understand me. That's the big deception in the world. If you can't understand what I say, then it's you that lacks the understanding of what I said. So you being confused, casting confusion on me, is you projecting yourself onto me. So in order for you to fail, in order for you not to come to terms with it, you don't understand something, just like many of us in this world. This is our problem. We don't understand what somebody is saying on a stage giving a lecture. We go, oh, that guy's an idiot. He doesn't make any sense at all. What, because you don't understand him? Think again. Let me see. And goodbye. Let me see. Hasim. I can't find this guy. Wait, hold on. Where? Hasim. I just saw a question from you and I wanted to answer it. This is crazy, trying to follow these things. I'm really sorry, folks, that I'm not better at this, but it's just, I'm good at a lot of things, but apparently not managing these chat boxes. If you try to stop them, they don't stop. Vin Daniel, hey, good to see you, Vin. Tracy, where is that guy? Well, sorry, I can't find your question, and it's moving too fast. Dale Israel says, only responsible for what I say, not what you perceive. Yes. Keep in mind that part of what our issues are is that we cast ourselves. We cast who we are. So we project ourselves onto other people. Be aware that we do this. Be aware that you do this. Because this is really the evil in us. That somebody will come and they'll say, somebody comes and they say, you think you're so good. How do you know what I think? You don't. The only thing that you know is that which is inside of you. So you project yourself that if you were in my seat saying the things that I'm saying, that you and your personality and what you know about yourself, that you would think you were really great. So you project that onto me because it's impossible for you to make a statement of that with any degree of any accuracy if you don't know anything about the way that I think. Just because you hear me speaking doesn't mean you know anything about the way that I think, and particularly doesn't mean that you know how I feel. But I think that you get a sense inside, and that can sometimes be articulated, that you can see that you feel that I care. You can look at the fruits that I have and know that I care because I'm gaining nothing from this. I could do something other than this, and in this world do a lot better. So you can rationalize the fruit and yield that. You can see people finding truths and being healed, and you can take that and say, that's the fruit. That's why it says you will know them by their fruit, not by what you perceive. Because look, in the end, the reality of it is this. We live in a perceptive world where you live by your perceptions. That's what you're trying to manage all the time. That's your misery. That's why you don't live in peace, is that your family over here, they think that you're this. Your friends, they think you're this. You got married maybe because everybody perceived that this was the best you would ever get. And you're like, well, it probably is, but really it had nothing to do with love. All of these different things that we live by how people perceive us. We go to church on Sundays and Wednesdays so people see us. Oh, look, I'm righteous. I'm going to church. In the end, your consciousness, you're the judge. Christ said, the Father judges nobody. He's reserved that for the Son, which is you. You will judge yourself in the end, and you will not judge yourself by what you did or did not say, not by what you did or did not perceive, not by what you did or did not think. You won't be judged by what everybody else thinks. I could convince 1 billion people to think I'm the greatest person in the world. I'll still die in my own hell if I truly am awful inside. Period. So that's what we do. Watch out. Full light spectrum. What is my thoughts on crystals? It depends. Crystals have a lot of electrical elements to them. Crystals are grown. They're grown based on the elements. Crystals have very specific shapes. They determine their own shape. They have properties that they grow themselves in. Crystals are beautiful, unbelievable. You want to ask me what I think of crystals. Here's one. So this is a lightsaber. That's a very, very big subject. And I pointed some folks to a couple videos about crystals, that crystals are grown. So when you see, like out here, you have the granite dells. Myself and Malia were walking through the granite dells, which are these incredible granite rocks, mountains. And I heard as loud as I could. I was with Malia, and I said, wow, I just heard, have you seen my crystals? And when I got back, I found this video on this guy in this 50s film at this university talking about the growing crystals and giving you the specifics on the crystals within granite. And I realized that was told to me or shown to me to recognize that we grow things, that structures by the ancients were grown and then carved. What is in the mountains you need to see, brother? I don't know yet. That's why we're going. And I couldn't say who. Oh, Matt Burkett. Don't know yet, Matt, but we're definitely going to find out. But I know that there's something there for us to see. So Desert Wolf says 9/11 was an inside Jewish job, a pretext to go to war and destabilize Israel's neighbors. What is their goal? Greater Israel and a Jew world order? I don't know whether you know this or not, but all of the cartels of the world, the Diamond Cartel, the De Beers family, the gold bullion market, the banking institutions, all forms of financial institutions, 98% of the patents of technology in the world, 98% of the patents of all military industrial complex of every single weapon system in the world, probably 98 to 99% of all medical procedures and all inventions and medical procedures all yield from Israelis. So if there's a God of this world, and this God of this world is not the Father, and they are the chosen people of God, and Jesus said to the Hebrews when he was confronting them and disclosing everything and saying, your father is Satan, who do you think operates it? 9/11 an inside job? No question about it. Not for 1 second. Focusing on that, yeah, that'll wake you up for a part, but that's a tiny little piece of the overall illusion that is created. They'll also do good with the intention of later turning that in a different way and accomplishing something else. 9/11 was no question, wasn't just an inside job from this country, but the entire system of the global economic system, the banking nations of the world, and yes, most likely funded and orchestrated. I ran a company that was based in Ra'anana, Israel at the time. So I was awakened by In fact, you remember the Nextel phones. I was awakened by some of my employees that were Israelis that were here in the United States at the time and communicating back with Israel. And the first building had been struck, and they were sending me messages then. And the very first words I heard from them was, Osama bin Laden has just hit the first tower. And I thought, really, that's interesting. They haven't even mentioned terrorist attack, but everybody knew it there. So that was quite enlightening. And the company that I ran was a intelligence company, technology, and people that invented weapons, technology in weapons, things like massive viruses that take down nuclear facilities, stuff like that. Desert Wolf. Jews is quoting Mel Gibson, who said, Jews are responsible for all the wars in the world. Well, maybe Mel may be right, but at the same time, in the actions that Mel has taken with the movies, he's working with the same group, because you're not making a film that is bolstering the Roman Catholic establishment and ignoring the Jews and calling them bad. That shows you that he's either working on their behalf or that he just doesn't quite get the degree of the integration between those two. It was clear within scriptures that they had planned on building the religious organization, as Caiaphas was saying, around the death of Christ, that they were going to use this to bring, quote, the children of God into one. The children of which God is the question. And that that the intention of that was always going to be in cooperation with the Hebrews. Nothing has changed. Nothing. There is nothing new under the sun, folks. Post time of show again tonight. Okay, thanks, Tracy, for the reminder. Jeff Doherty's show tonight, 9 p.m., and I'm going to need to get some rest. So I'm going to close this off unless somebody has a really good question. That's Jeffrey's link, 9 p.m. Pacific time tonight, with myself, Rex Bear from Leak Project, and Jeff Doherty. 9 p.m. Pacific time, yes. Thomas Carroll, love, love, love. Love you back. Jeff Doherty, looking forward to it. Likewise, Jeff, there he is. High five. Paula Amon's 11 Central, yes. Thank you very much. Thanks for everybody doing my work for me. Maybe another special guest too? Interesting. Could be fun. Rex is going to make his Martian sounds the whole show? I don't know about that. Let me see here. Arcs are powered up. Use it. Yes. I have an Ark of the Covenant. It's hidden. You can't see it, but I got one. Let me see. Gosh dang it. Trying to read some of these questions. See, now Jeff is polished at this. He's been doing this for years, reading these chats that go this fast. I can't. It's crazy. What if there is no father at all? How do I approach that? Well, why would I answer your question when the evidence of the father at all is inaccurate? The evidence is right in front of you. The evidence is everywhere. Everywhere. So I can't answer the rest of your question. How would you approach that? If you're asking me, what if you don't believe there is a father of all? Well, then I would say, ask for him to speak to you. Seek him, and he'll make himself known. I promise you that. Say, Debbie Bell, say goodbye now, Derek. Laughing out loud. Yes, I know I need to go. Okay, I love you all very much. I appreciate you, all of you. And I look forward to, again, let me just give you a quick update again, just for people that didn't hear it. Malia and I will continue Red Letter Disciples channel when she gets here. She's going to be here probably, I'm going to guess, about a week. Not giving specific days. I cannot wait to see her. And it shows, hey, it shows right now that Jeff is live. Are we both live? Yes. So Jeff and I are both telling about tonight live. So when you hang up with me, go join Jeff's channel. And I'm going to get a nap because this is a late show. And Jeff, you should take a nap too. Thank you. Who is that? Borderline Awake. Hi, Derek. Love you. Thank you for your true spoken. Borderline Awake. You're borderline awake, man. We need to get you the rest of the wake up. Love you very much, too. Thank you so much for coming. Paula, good to see you again. Thanks for coming. Best M Podcast. Kimber Kiss. I will get some sleep. Johnny Be Good. Good to see you, Larry Glenn. Bye-bye, Amber. I see you, Kate Downey. Rabbit Abel. Dawn, Quadruple Zero. Good to see you. Candace Duval. Calvin, Copy, everybody. Love you very much. Join Jeff's channel. He's live right now. At least it still says he is. Let me hit refresh real fast. Nope, not live anymore. 53 minutes ago. Dang it. So we were doing it at the same time. Sorry. So Jeff's channel is no longer live. Love you, Jeff. Love you guys. I'll talk to you soon. See you tonight at 9 o'clock.